Hello there, this is Jed Schlackman, and I'm going to be speaking with you today about the topic of holistic healing. My background is as a holistic therapist, and I've had training in psychology and counseling from the, you could say, conventional or traditional perspective, as well as training in holistic healing modalities, which includes things like hypnosis, vibrational healing, Reiki, energy psychology, also some training in areas related to nutrition, herbs, diet, and some of those more physical level interventions that we can use in healthcare. Now, what I've come to recognize or understand is that it's important to consider the significance of multiple levels of reality in the healing process. So when someone has a particular symptom or condition and they go to their physician, in the Western medicine model, the approach is usually focused on treating the symptoms. So if you have a pain, what's going to help kill that pain? If you have a fever, what's going to bring down the fever? Things of that nature. In the more holistic models, which include Asian traditions like Ayurveda and Oriental medicine, as well as other indigenous healing systems around the planet, there's the idea that our body, our mind, and spirit are all part of who we are, and all levels on which we can intervene to support the healing process. So the body, the mind, and the soul or spirit are not separate from one another, and they exist in what you might consider a feedback system, where a symptom on one level can reflect issues that are occurring on another level. One of the modern pioneers of holistic healing is a physician named Dr. Dietrich Klinkhardt, and he has developed a fairly well-known model which is referred to as the 5 levels of healing. And in his model, he speaks about different bodies or levels of our being. And that system refers first to the physical body, which would be the first or most dense level of who we are. So on that level, we have our physical structure, our body chemistry. We could intervene physically with surgery, with medicines, with herbs, with food, so things that affect us on a more gross physical level. Beyond that, we have a second level, which is often called the electromagnetic body, and that level is subtle energy. So that's where we start to deal with things like the meridians in acupuncture, the chakras in yoga and Ayurveda, the aura. So here we're getting into somewhat of a non-physical level, but it's a level that's very close vibrationally to the physical body. The third level is referred to in this system as the mental body. The mental body would be where we have our beliefs, our thoughts, different patterns in our consciousness, our memories. So that's the level where psychology usually attempts to facilitate healing or transformation. Then we come to the fourth level, which Klinkhardt's model refers to as the intuitive body. The intuitive level is where we have dreams and altered states of consciousness. It's where you might attempt to support someone with hypnosis, with past life regressions, with systemic family therapy. So on this level, we're dealing with things that are less objective, you could say, and more subjective. It could delve into archetypes, into symbolism. So when we look at physical symptoms, sometimes they have a symbolic meaning. Different parts of the body or different symptoms may relate to different things that are happening in our consciousness, and that could be somewhat individual for a given person. So not everyone will have the exact same symbolism in their dreams. Not everyone has the exact same meaning which is being applied to what's happening in their life. Next, we come to the fifth level, which could be referred to as the soul or the spiritual level. And this is the level where someone's consciousness is most directly connected to the Creator, to God, to that divine source, by whatever name you may refer to it. And in this model of healing, an external practitioner would be working with you on any of the first four levels, but the fifth level is something that's very intimate between you and your spiritual source. It's not something where an outside person can do something to create that healing change. So it's more of an internal or inner process which occurs on that level. So how does this relate to the healing work that I do or that other practitioners may offer? We have to understand that in order to address a problem or concern efficiently or effectively, we want to address it on the level that most directly relates to the cause or origin of that condition. So if someone goes through psychological trauma, such as witnessing a murder, experiencing rape, having their home destroyed, whatever the trauma may be, that's something that's happening to them primarily on a psychological level. Now, there might have been some physical injury associated with the trauma, and that injury might be treated physically. But for the psychological and emotional trauma, you can't heal that trauma by giving that someone a drug or medicine or even a supplement or an herb. Those things may have an effect upon their symptoms, but it's not producing true healing. It may just help their body cope with the overwhelming energy that's coming through them as a result of that trauma. But if we would really wish to heal the trauma, we'll need to access the deeper levels, particularly the third and fourth levels, the mental body, the intuitive body, and that person on their own may be doing some spiritual work on the soul level to, in a sense, repair their connection with the Creator. Now, if someone is experiencing a physical issue such as malnutrition, if we just try to give them psychological therapy or work with their dreams or with hypnosis or something on that level, and we don't supply the nutrient that their body is lacking, we're going to get limited results. So we may need things on multiple levels in order to facilitate healing. My approach is to work with a person in the beginning to start to explore what's happening in their life with each of these levels that may relate to what their symptoms or concerns are. So it's kind of like doing detective work. You have to consider different possibilities, different hypotheses, different levels of information that pertain to this specific case that you're working on. If someone comes to me for energy healing, I'm working primarily on the second level, which is the energetic body or electromagnetic body. That level kind of exists between the physical level and the mental and emotional level. So when you're affecting the energy field and the energy flow, you're both potentially affecting the physical body and that person's consciousness. So I might trigger some type of shift or release or healing process on multiple levels. Someone might have physical symptoms of their body starting to clear out toxic elements. They might have emotional releases, so they may have memories from their past arise. There might be someone starting to laugh or cry as those emotional releases occur. And that's something that I'm there to support them through, to coach them through, to help them process whatever is occurring. Part of my role as a healer is to trust that person's own inner wisdom, their soul's intelligence. So from my understanding and experience, there's a deeper part of ourselves that truly desires for us to feel healthy and happy, to be balanced, to be fulfilled, to truly reach our potential in life. And when I'm assisting people, it's my desire to help them access that wise, loving part of themselves. Each of us has the potential to access that to some extent on our own. However, there's often times when we're not able to do so as well as we could with someone else who's experienced assisting us in that process. So if we look at this healing model of 5 levels, if there's someone who has self-defeating habits or beliefs, things in their subconscious mind that are sabotaging their well-being or their success in life, they're kind of blind to it because they're looking at their life through the filters of their own beliefs, their own unconscious patterns and perspectives. So it may take clearing the conscious mind out of the way in a sense so that they can access what's there in their unconscious. They may need someone who's kind of a coach or guide for them to give them feedback about the patterns or issues that they're exhibiting or displaying. So that's where someone who does healing work, someone who's a counselor or therapist of some type, may be able to benefit them. On the physical level, there's many different healing methods that are available. So someone may see someone who practices chiropractic work, who helps physically adjust their spine. Someone may see an herbalist who provides herbal remedies. They may work with a dietary specialist or a nutrition consultant, someone who helps them rebalance things on that chemical level. In Western medicine, physicians often prescribe synthetic medicines or synthetic chemicals which are designed in some way to alter the chemical functioning of the body. Now, the challenge with using that approach is that those substances are not something that the body is naturally designed to process. So there isn't a species memory, we could say, or resonance with those artificial compounds. And as a result, there's usually some type of toxic burden that is created by them. Also, many of those medicines are designed to impair some natural process of our body. An example of that in the psychology field is a medicine like an SSRI drug, which is designed to inhibit reuptake of the neurotransmitter serotonin. So our body is naturally designed to balance its own internal levels of serotonin. When you block the reuptake of serotonin, what you're doing is you're slowing down the body's natural cycling of that chemical, which causes it to kind of build up more than it normally would. Now, a reason someone might think of doing that as a therapy is when there's apparently a deficiency of serotonin levels. So the idea there is, okay, there's not enough serotonin circulating in the brain, and to attempt to get that level higher, they're blocking the reuptake mechanism. Now, someone who works from a more natural perspective would look at that and say, okay, what is the reason or cause for that low level of serotonin that we believe is present? So the cause might be that the body is missing nutrients that are needed to synthesize serotonin, and that would involve things like vitamins, amino acids, minerals, so the natural chemicals that we get from our food. Another reason might be some other drug or medicine that a person's taking. Another reason might be lack of sleep, lack of sunlight, other lifestyle factors. So before trying to artificially force that serotonin level up, you would want to look at the natural factors that can be addressed that could help restore a balanced level of serotonin in a relatively safe way. So I encourage people to look at those more natural, harmonious ways of bringing the body into balance before taking an extreme measure, such as using a psychotropic drug, which is well known to have potentially harmful side effects. And by side effect, we're not saying it's a smaller, less significant effect than the primary desirable effect. It's just another effect. And a lot of the research shows that long-term use of those types of medicines actually creates longer-lasting depression or whatever the particular diagnosed condition might be. So if you deal with it more naturally, especially with a holistic model, you have a better chance of fully resolving that issue and not having it persist. Whereas if you just use a synthetic chemical to suppress the symptom by trying to artificially compensate for what's happening, then you run the risk of merely perpetuating the underlying problem, or perhaps even aggravating it or triggering some other undesirable symptom. With holistic healing, we're not trying to say that you can't use conventional medicine. There may be situations where there's an emergency or crisis where you need to rapidly intervene to create those types of effects that allopathic medicine is able to create. So if someone has a severe infection, they may benefit from getting an intense dose of antibiotics. Now, there may be other modalities from a holistic or alternative medicine side that could also treat that, but we're not telling someone that you can't use antibiotics to stop an infection. However, that being said, we do want to look at what the long-term or lasting effects of using the antibiotics could be. And even in conventional medicine, it's recognized that antibiotics can promote resistant bacteria. So you may wipe out that immediate infection, but then later on you become more susceptible to even more dangerous infections. You also damage the natural positive bacteria in the body, known as probiotics, which populate the gut. So we need those to maintain a healthy digestive system, a healthy immune system, and so on. So by wiping out the positive bacteria, along with any harmful ones that we've had in our body, we need to take steps to rebuild the healthy flora. So in that case, even if you chose to use the conventional antibiotics, you could still use other approaches, such as probiotic supplements or certain fermented foods, to repopulate the healthy bacteria that your body needs. If we look at the history of medicine and healthcare, the modern era is a relatively short era. So really it's for the last 100 years or so that we've been using a lot of synthetically derived chemicals as a predominant form of treatment in healthcare. Prior to that, for many thousands of years, humanity was getting by pretty well using the traditional holistic healing methods, which included working with the forces of nature, both the physical forces like sunlight, water, rest, food, herbs, and non-physical forces, subtle energies, things that we would refer to as chi or prana, vital energy, spiritual energy, and of course psychological methods, which would include using some form of hypnosis or trance, using prayers or affirmations, so things that are designed to heal our consciousness. So those methods are nothing new. People meditate now and see it as a complementary or alternative form of healing, but thousands of years ago that may have been one of the primary forms of healing. We can see that those methods have stood the test of time, and now modern research is starting to catch up with ancient knowledge and ancient wisdom. So we have electrical devices that are able to validate the existence of the acupuncture meridians. We have biofeedback devices that are confirming the existence of the chakras, the subtle energy field that surrounds our body. And we even have ways of showing that our physical body is sort of a holographic projection, and that our consciousness is tapped into a realm that is not confined to linear time. A good example of that is the research from the HeartMath Institute, and they're an institute that works with a form of biofeedback focused on heart rhythm coherence. And some of the studies they've done have looked at intuition and precognition, where they're seeing through biofeedback instruments how the body is responding to certain emotionally charged stimuli. And what they've discovered is that the body is actually reacting, particularly from the heart center, electromagnetically, before the stimulus is actually presented. So it's kind of like the body is subconsciously tuning in to this field of events before the events actually happen here in what we perceive as physical reality. And of course, in parapsychology, looking at things like telepathy, non-local connections between two people and their consciousness, precognition, perceiving things before they happen, past life recall, all those topics are something that is recognized as real, valid experiences. For those that are interested in holistic healing, it's helpful to recognize the power and potency of those deeper levels of reality. So if we wish to truly and deeply heal ourselves, whether it's a physical, psychological, or emotional issue, we may need to tap into those deeper realms. We may receive guidance from what we would call our soul or higher self. On the physical level, our conscious mind has limited access to information. It can only process a certain amount of information or data at one time, whereas the deeper levels of our consciousness can access a seemingly unlimited amount of information. It's our subconscious awareness that's actually running our body. Right now, as I'm speaking, I'm not consciously focusing on everything happening in my body. I'm focusing consciously on what I'm prepared to say, on perhaps the camera that's recording this presentation, but I'm not consciously thinking about my heartbeat, my breathing, about the different chemicals that are released in my body. All that's happening on an unconscious level, and there's this vast intelligence that knows exactly how to manage all of that. So it's helpful to release anything that's interfering with the healthy functioning of that subconscious intelligence. And one of the main things that we understand that interferes is stress. So stress is something that exists on multiple levels. It exists physically when we have too much physical trauma occurring to our body. That could be physical injuries. It could be an overdose of some chemical or substance that our body is exposed to. Stress could be psychological, which means experiences that occur in our life that we're not fully ready to process or handle at the time it occurs. Remember, experiences have a subjective meaning for us. There isn't an ultimate objective meaning for that experience. So two different people could have the same type of experience and yet process that in different ways. So in order to process stress, we often have to help release the energy that got created at the time of the stressful experience. So there could be some type of tension or pressure that we still hold in our body or in our energy field that was triggered by that experience. When I provide energy healing treatments like Reiki, that's often what I'm perceiving in that other person's energy, that they have a certain denseness or tension, a constriction that's been maintained in their energy field or their energy system. And that particular pattern in their energy is a major factor in why they're experiencing some type of illness or distress in their life. And this is something that's actually not too difficult to help clear or release. So once we start to go into a relaxed state, we're able to start unwinding those patterns of tension or constriction in the energy. So energy is always transforming or shifting. If you think of it as a waveform, that wave can change its frequency, and it's something that can actually happen in an instant. So when I'm providing a Reiki treatment, the person experiencing that treatment may feel a very rapid shift in the state of their energy or in their emotional state. Emotions in particular can change rather quickly. So just as you may be in a positive mood going through your daily routine, and then someone calls you and you hear unpleasant news, and immediately your emotional state changes, well, that can happen in the opposite direction as well, where you may be feeling like you're depressed or in a funk, and then something very pleasant happens, and suddenly your mood comes into a positive state. By shifting the energy, which shifts the vibrational pattern that you're in, you can shift the emotions, since emotions are a form of vibrational energy. Actually, everything in existence is a form of vibrational energy. Our body, our feelings, our emotions, our beliefs, our memories, everything is really just energy or waveforms carrying information. So when people use the metaphor of the matrix, they're actually using a pretty useful metaphor to describe reality. So matrix refers to the matter, right? Matter being the physical reality, which is created by patterns of energy and information. So you do not have physical reality without having consciousness and energy there to create it. I hope that this presentation has been enlightening and helpful for you. If you have any questions, if you would like to learn more, I encourage you to visit my website at www.phinsights.com. That's www.phinsights.com.